picture this scenario. You are just walking down a totally normal city sidewalk. It's a sunny Tuesday. You're minding your own business.
Right, just heading to get a coffee or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And suddenly, out of nowhere, a grand piano falls from a second-story window.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it falls and completely crushes your foot. But you look up, and there's nobody in the window.
Nothing, no one there.
Right. You don't have a video. You have no witnesses. In real life, you just think, well, I have terrible luck.
You really do.
But in the world of tort law, that falling piano actually speaks for itself. It is, the key to winning a lawsuit, even when you have zero direct proof.
It's honestly one of the most fascinating workarounds in civil law. I mean, the law hates leaving an injured person with nothing, right?
Right, so they create these rules to force the responsible person to pay. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
If you're listening to this deep dive right now, you are studying for the MBE, the multi-state bar examination.
And that is a massive challenge.
It is. And we know that for many of you listening, English is your second language.
Which just makes it so much harder. You're dealing with, archaic vocabulary and Latin phrases.
Exactly. So our mission today is very specific. We are going to explain everything in very simple English.
Simple words, clear examples.
Yes. And we're going to help you build a mental mind map. Because if you just memorize lists, the MBE will absolutely trick you.
Oh, they love to trick you. They design the questions to trap people who only memorize definitions.
Right. So we need a structure, a mind map you can actually remember.
Yeah.
And we are going to anchor this map using a really simple acronym.
The ABCs of negligence.
Exactly. So negligence technically has 4 parts: duty, breach, causation, and damages.
But the material we are diving into today assumes you already know about duty. We are just looking at the last 3.
Right. So our ABC acronym maps to those 3 perfectly. A stands for actual breach.
Okay.
B stands for because of, that is causation.
Because of. I like that. It's simple.
And C stands for compensation, which means damages. So actual breach, because of, compensation. ABC.
That is a great way to visualize it. And as we build this map, we need to point out the specific traps the bar examiners use.
Yes, the exam notes. I'll ring a mental alarm bell when we hit one. So let's start with the first branch of our map, the A branch.
Actual breach of duty.
Right. In very simple English, how does the injured person, the plaintiff, actually prove the defendant made a legal mistake?
Well, it starts with the burden of proof. In a criminal trial, you have to prove things beyond a reasonable doubt.
Which is really hard to do. You need to be almost 100% sure.
Exactly. But negligence is civil law, so the rule is much easier. It's just a preponderance of the evidence.
A preponderance. Okay, what does that mean in simple English?
It just means more likely than not.
So if we imagine a balancing scale.
Right. You just have to tip the scale slightly past 50%. Even 50.1% is enough to win.
Okay, that makes sense. So the plaintiff has to prove that it's more likely than not that the defendant messed up. But what is the standard?
The standard is the reasonably prudent person.
Okay, the reasonably prudent person. This gives law students nightmares. Who is this person?
It's an imaginary, perfectly careful person. The court looks at the defendant and asks, what would this fake, perfect person have done?
Wait, so it's not subjective. Like, if I'm driving and the bee flies in my car and I panic and crash.
Yeah, you can't just say, well, I was scared. Anyone would panic.
Really? Because I would definitely panic.
Right, but the court doesn't care about your personal feelings. It's an objective standard. The imaginary, prudent person wouldn't have taken their eyes off the road.
Wow. Okay, so how do I prove someone didn't act like this imaginary perfect person?
You use evidence. Like maybe you show they broke a written law, like a speed limit, or you show that everyone else in the industry does it a safer way.
But wait, this brings us back to the falling piano.
Ah, yes, the piano.
I have a crushed foot. I have a piano on the sidewalk. I don't have a video. I don't have evidence of anyone speeding or breaking a rule.
You have zero direct proof.
Right. So do I just lose my case?
You would, but the law created a special tool for this exact problem. It's a Latin phrase, res ipsa loquitur.
Res ipsa loquitur, meaning the thing speaks for itself.
Exactly. The idea is that some accidents are just so crazy they don't happen unless someone was careless.
Like a falling piano. Pianos don't just jump out of windows.
Right. Or a surgical sponge being left inside someone's stomach. It doesn't happen without negligence.
So the accident itself becomes the evidence.
Yes, circumstantial evidence. But here is your first big exam note.
Okay, ringing the alarm bell. What's the trap?
The trap is about direct evidence. If you actually have a video of the guy pushing the piano, You cannot use res ipsa.
Wait, really? But wouldn't I want to say, hey, the thing speaks for itself, and D, I have a video?
You would want to, but the rule says no. Res ipsa is only a lifeline when you are drowning in a lack of proof.
Oh, I see. If I have the video does the speaking. I don't need the thing to speak for itself.
Exactly. You only use it when you have no direct proof. So to use this tool, there is a traditional test. We can use the mnemonic END, like the word end.
E-N-D. Okay, let's put that on our mind map. What does the E stand for?
E stands for exclusive control. The defendant must have been in exclusive control of the thing that caused the injury.
Okay, so the defendant had total control of the piano. What is N?
N stands for no action by the plaintiff, meaning the injured person didn't cause the accident themselves.
Right, I wasn't throwing rocks at the piano to make it fall. And D?
D stands for doesn't normally happen. The accident is something that doesn't normally happen without negligence.
Exclusive control. No action by plaintiff. Doesn't normally happen. E and D.
You got it. But we need to look closer at that E exclusive control, because modern courts are really changing this.
Let's create a, but sub-branch on the map? Because the bar exam loves to test the exceptions.
They really do. Think about a modern grocery store. The owner probably doesn't mop the floors, right?
Right, they hire a cleaning company to do it at night.
So if the cleaning company leaves a giant puddle and a customer slips and breaks their back.
The customer sues the store owner.
Right. But the store owner says, hey, I didn't have exclusive control of the mop. The cleaning company did.
Oh, so under the strict E&D rule, the owner would win.
Historically, maybe. But modern courts say no. They created a rule called a non-delegable duty.
Non-delegable, meaning a duty you are not allowed to hand off to someone else.
Exactly. If you open a store to the public, keeping it safe is your job. You can't just sign a contract and give that responsibility away.
So the law pretends the owner still had exclusive control.
Yes. And there's an even wilder exception for medical malpractice. The famous case of Ybarra versus Spengard.
Ybarra. Okay, I've seen that name a lot. What happened?
A patient goes in for a simple appendix surgery. They are completely put to sleep, unconscious. When they wake up, their appendix is gone, but their shoulder is completely ruined, like a severe traumatic injury.
What during an appendix surgery?
Exactly. So that hits the D in our acronym. That doesn't normally happen without a mistake.
And it hits the N. No action by the plaintiff because the patient was asleep.
Right. But the E, exclusive control, that's the problem.
Because there were, 10 people in the operating room? Surgeons, nurses, anesthesiologists?
Yes, and the patient has no idea who dropped them or pulled their arms, so under the old rule, they can't prove exclusive control against any single person.
So the patient just loses. That's terrible. The doctors could just stay silent and protect each other.
Which is exactly what the court realized. So the court changed the rule. For unconscious patients, the burden of proof shifts.
Meaning what, exactly?
The court groups all the medical staff together. They say, we know one of you did this, so we are going to assume you are all negligent unless you can prove you aren't.
Wow. So they are all on the hook.
Yes. They are held jointly and severally liable. That's a key term.
Jointly and severally liable. Let's define that in simple English.
It means the patient can demand the entire payout from just one person in the group.
So if the jury awards $1 million,
the patient can just look at the richest surgeon and say, give me the whole $1 million.
And then it's that surgeon's problem to get the money back from the nurses or the other doctor.
Exactly. It forces the doctors to break their code of silence.
That is so smart. Okay, so the E and END is getting very flexible. What about the N? No action by the plaintiff.
That is also changing because of something called comparative fault.
Let's slow down here. What did the law used to be?
It used to be called contributory negligence. It was brutal. If the plaintiff was even 1% at fault for the accident.
Like they were speeding just 1 mile over the limit.
Yeah. If they were 1% at fault, they got absolutely $0. Even if the defendant was 99% at fault.
That is so harsh. An all-or-nothing system.
Right. So almost every state has moved to comparative fault. Now, the jury just assigns percentages.
So if I'm 10% at fault, my money is just reduced by 10%, I still get the 90%.
Exactly. And because of this, modern courts are much more relaxed about the N in res ipsa.
Because they aren't trying to punish the plaintiff completely anymore.
Right. Even if you helped cause the accident a little bit, they might still let you use res ipsa and just reduce your money at the end.
Got it. Now, what does the third restatement say about all this? The bar exam always asks about the restatement.
The third restatement is A book written by legal scholars trying to modernize the law. They want to throw out the END rule entirely.
Really? All of it.
Yeah, they suggest a group approach. Like if an accident is caused by a class of actors, you can just sue the whole class.
But wait, exam note here. Does the actual bar exam use the restatement rule?
Usually, no. Very few courts actually use it. So for the MBE, stick to the END rule and the specific exceptions like that you bar a medical case. Don't use the restatement unless the question specifically tells you to.
Perfect. Okay, one last thing on the A branch. Procedurally, what happens in the courtroom if I successfully use res ipsa? Do I automatically win?
No, that is a huge trap. You do not automatically win.
Okay, so what does it actually do?
Think about a trial. The plaintiff presents their evidence first. Then they rest their case.
And the defense usually stands up and asks the judge to throw the case out, right?
Exactly. It's called a motion for a directed verdict. The defense says their evidence is so bad, just end the trial right now.
Ah. So res ipsa is just a shield against that motion.
Yes. If you prove the piano fell from their window, the judge must deny the motion. It prevents the judge from throwing the case out.
It just keeps you in the game. It forces the defendant to explain themselves.
Right. And the jury can still choose to let the defendant win at the end. It's an inference of negligence, not a guarantee.
Okay, we have completely mapped the A branch, actual breach. We tipped the scale, found the reasonably prudent person, and survived the directed verdict
Now we move to the B branch.
because of causation.
This is where things get really philosophical. You have to prove two separate types of causation, both of them.
Okay, what's the first one?
Actual cause, also known as cause, in fact. This is just basic physics.
The Butler test.
Exactly. You asked one simple question, but for the defendant's mistake, would the injury have happened?
Let me test that. If I run a red light and hit your car, but for me running the red light, would your car be crushed?
The answer is no. If you stopped, my car would be fine. So you are the actual cause.
That is super simple.
Too simple. The bar examiners don't test that. They test the weird situations where the but-for test completely breaks down.
Okay, we need another mnemonic for our map. The text gives us SAC, like sack of potatoes.
SAC. Let's open the deck. The S stands for substantial factor.
When do we use this?
When two independent forces happen at the exact same time to cause an injury, the classic example is two merging fires.
Okay, so imagine two careless campers. Camper A is in the North Forest, Camper B is in the South Forest.
Right. They both leave their fires burning.
The wind blows, the fires grow, and they perfectly merge into one giant wall of fire right as they burn down my cabin.
Now apply the but-for test. You ask Camper A, but for your fire, would my cabin have burned down?
And Camper A says, yes! Look, Camper B's fire. It was going to burn your cabin anyway, so I am not the but-for cause.
And Camper B says the exact same thing.
So if we use the normal rule, they both get away with it and I get nothing.
Exactly, which is totally unfair. So the courts created the substantial factor test.
How does that work in simple English?
The court just asks, was Camper A's fire a material and substantial factor in the damage? Yes. Was Camper B's? Yes, so they are both liable.
Jointly and severally liable again.
You got it. Okay, the A in our SAC. Alternative causation.
This one is based on the famous hunting case, Summers versus Tice. But let's use a modern example.
Sure.
Imagine two tech companies, Company A and Company B. They're both illegally flying identical silver drones over a neighborhood.
Okay, so they are both acting negligently.
Right. At the exact same second, two drones fall from the sky. One crashes into an empty pool, the other crashes through a window and hits a person.
But the drones are totally smashed. You can't tell which company owns which drone.
Yes. So the injured person sues both companies. But the companies say, hey, use the but-for test. You can't prove it was my drone. It's a 50-50 chance.
And you need 50.1% to win.
So the victim just loses because of bad math.
Not under alternative causation. The court does something radical. They shift the burden of proof.
Meaning the victim doesn't have to prove it anymore.
Right. The court looks at the two companies and says, we know one of you did it. You were both acting carelessly. So now you have to prove it wasn't your drone.
Wow. So Company A has to prove their drone was the one in the pool.
Yes. And if neither of them can prove it, they are both held jointly and severally liable.
But wait, exam note here. You can't just use this all the time, right?
No. It usually only works if there is a very small number of defendants, like 2 or 3, and all of them are in the courtroom. You can't use it if there were 50 drones and you only sued 2 people.
Got it. Okay, so S is substantial factor. A is alternative causation. What is the C?
C stands for concert of action. This is when people are acting together as a team.
Like a drag race.
Yes. Two teenagers decide to race their cars on a busy street. Driver 1 loses control and hits a pedestrian. Driver 2 safely stops his car.
Driver 2 didn't touch anyone. So he says, I'm not the actual cause.
Physically, he isn't, but psychologically, he is. Because they agreed to do a dangerous thing together, the law treats them as one entity.
Because driver 2 encouraged the racing.
Exactly. They are both liable. That's concert of action.
So SAC handles the weird physics stuff. But the text also talks about something called loss of chance.
This is a specific medical doctrine, and it involves math.
Oh boy. Math on a law exam. Explain this in simple English.
Okay. Imagine you go to a doctor with a cough. The doctor rushes and says, you just have allergies. But they are wrong. You actually have aggressive lung cancer.
Okay, so the doctor was negligent. They breached their duty.
Yes. 6 months later, you find out it's cancer, but it's too late. The patient dies. The family sues the doctor for wrongful death.
But the doctor brings in an expert who says, look, this cancer was so bad, the patient only had a 30% chance to live anyway, even on day 1.
Right. So the doctor says, apply the but-for test. Even if I did everything perfect, the patient had a 70% chance of dying, so my mistake didn't cause the death.
And mathematically, the doctor is right. It's more likely than not that the patient was going to die anyway.
Which means under the old rules, the family gets 0. The doctor gets away with malpractice just because the patient was really sick.
That is a terrible rule.
It is. So modern courts created the loss of chance doctrine. They redefined the injury. The injury isn't the death. The injury is the stolen chance to survive.
Oh.
That makes sense. But how do you calculate the money for a stolen chance? Let's do the math. First, the jury decides the total value of the life. Let's say $1 million.
Okay, $1 million total.
Then you look at the survival chance before the mistake, 30%.
And the survival chance after the 6-month delay, let's say it dropped to 5%.
Perfect. So 30% minus 5% is 25%. The doctor stole 25% of the patient's hope.
So you just take 25% of the $1 million.
Yes. The family gets $250,000.
That is a really elegant way to solve that problem.
It is. Now, there is one last thing for actual cause. The coincidence rule.
Okay, tell me a coincidence story.
You are speeding down a mountain road, going way over the speed limit. Suddenly, a massive gust of wind blows a tree over and it falls perfectly on your car, crushing your passenger.
So the passenger sues me.
Yeah.
And they say, if you weren't speeding, we wouldn't have been in that exact spot when the tree fell.
Which is physically true.
So am I liable?
No, because your speeding was just a coincidence. The law says your careless act has to actually increase the risk of the specific harm.
Ooh. Speeding increases the risk of crashing into another car. It doesn't increase the risk of random trees falling from the sky.
Exactly. No liability. And that transitions us perfectly to the second half of the B branch.
Right, because we just talked about actual cause. Now we need proximate cause.
Proximate cause is the philosophy of fairness. Even if you physically cause something, is it fair to make you pay for it forever?
The restatement calls this the scope of liability, which I like better.
It's much clearer. And to understand this, you have to know the most famous case in American law, Palsgraf.
Palsgraf versus Long Island Railroad. Set the scene for us.
It's a crowded train station in the 1920s. A man is running to jump on a moving train. 2 railroad guards try to help him. One pulls him, one pushes him.
But they do it carelessly.
Right. And the man drops a small package wrapped in newspaper. No one knows what's inside.
But it's fireworks.
Yeah. Yes. It hits the tracks and explodes. The shockwave travels way down the platform and knocks over a huge, heavy metal scale.
And the scale falls on poor Mrs. Palsgraf, who's just standing there minding her own business.
She sues the railroad. Now, physically, did the guards cause her injury?
Yes, but for the guards pushing the man, no dropped package, no explosion, no falling scale.
Right. But should the railroad have to pay a woman standing 50 feet away? The judges completely disagreed, and it created a huge split in the law.
Okay, let's look at the two sides. What was the majority rule?
It was written by Judge Cardozo. It's called the foreseeable victim rule.
Foreseeable victim, what does that mean?
Cardozo drew an imaginary circle around the guards, the zone of danger. He said you only owe a duty to people you could reasonably guess might get hurt.
So if the package fell on the man's own foot, He's in the circle.
Yes, but Mrs. Paul's graph was way outside the circle. She was unforeseeable, so her case is dismissed.
A clean, harsh rule. But what was the other side? The minority rule.
Written by Judge Andrews. He said, if you act carelessly, you owe a duty to the whole world. Everyone is a foreseeable victim.
But you can't be liable forever, right?
No. Andrews said you just use a bunch of factors to see if it's fair. Was there a direct connection? Was it too far in time or space?
So it's a messy balancing test. How does the MBE test this?
If the question focuses on the zone of danger, they are testing Cardozo. If it gives you a crazy sequence of events and asks if it's too remote, they are testing Andrews.
Okay, so that's about WHO can sue you. What about what kind of damage they can sue for?
You mean, does the type of risk have to be foreseeable?
Yeah, like the ship explosion case in the text.
Right. A worker carelessly drops a heavy wooden plank into the bottom of a ship.
Foreseeable risk.
Yeah.
It dents the floor.
Unforeseeable risk. It creates a tiny spark, ignites invisible gas vapors, and blows up the entire ship.
Does the worker have to pay for a whole sunken ship?
The majority says yes. If it's a direct cause, you pay even if the result is weird. But a minority of states say no. You only pay if the specific type of harm was foreseeable.
Okay, but here is my favorite rule. I'm ringing the exam note bell loudly.
The eggshell skull rule.
Yes. Tell us about this.
While courts argue about the type of risk, they all agree on the extent of the damage. You take your victim as you find them.
Meaning what? Let's use simple English.
If I am in a grocery store and I lightly bump into you with my shopping cart...
Normally, that's just a small bruise.
Right. But what if you have a rare bone disease and your bones are as fragile as eggshells? My light bump completely shatters your leg. You need $2 million in surgeries?
So the defendant says, that's not fair. It was just a tap. I couldn't foresee a shattered leg.
The judge will say, too bad. You hurt an innocent person. You take your victim as you find them. You pay the $2 million.
The extent of the damage never has to be foreseeable. That is so important.
Okay, last part of proximate cause. The chain of events. Intervening versus superseding causes.
This is when someone else jumps into the timeline and makes the injury worse.
Yes. The rule for your map is foreseeable equals intervening. And the original defendant still pays.
But unforeseeable equals superseding. And that breaks the chain. The original defendant is safe.
Exactly. So let's look at things that are foreseeable. Weather is foreseeable. If I leave your roof open and it rains, I pay for the water damage.
Rescuers are foreseeable. If I push you in a river and a brave guy jumps in to save you but accidentally dislocates your shoulder,
I pay for the shoulder. It's foreseeable a rescuer might make a mistake.
Okay, here is the huge trap. The biggest exam note in causation. Medical malpractice.
Yes. Medical malpractice is always considered a foreseeable intervening cause.
Always. Let's role play. I'm texting and driving. I hit a pedestrian and break their right leg.
They go to the hospital, and an incompetent surgeon looks at the wrong chart and accidentally cuts off their perfectly healthy left leg.
So the patient sues me, the driver, for the amputated left leg. And I scream, no way, I just broke the right leg. That doctor's mistake is crazy. It's a superseding cause.
And you lose. The law says that going to a hospital is inherently risky. Medical mistakes are foreseeable.
So I, the driver, have to pay for the amputated left leg.
Yes. Now, the doctor is also liable. You are jointly and severally liable together. But you cannot use the doctor's mistake to escape your own liability. The chain is not broken.
Wow. Okay, so what actually breaks the chain? What is a superseding cause?
Two main things. First, freak acts of God. Like a random, unpredicted tornado throws the victim through a window while they are waiting for the ambulance.
That breaks the chain. I don't pay for the window injuries.
Right. Second, criminal acts by a third party. If I leave my apartment gate open and an arsonist sneaks in and burns down the building.
The arsonist is an unforeseeable criminal. That breaks the chain. I'm not liable for the fire.
Usually, yes. But wait, what if your specific job was to protect against criminals?
Like the teacher on the field trip.
Yes. A teacher takes kids to a dangerous neighborhood, gets distracted, and a criminal attacks a student.
The teacher can't say, oh, the criminal breaks the chain.
No, because the entire reason the teacher was negligent was that they exposed the kid to that exact criminal risk. The chain stays intact.
Okay, we've conquered the massive B branch because of actual cause and proximate cause.
Now for the final main branch. C, compensation, damages.
This is where we fix a problem with money. But first, what if there is no actual harm?
Negligence does not allow nominal damages.
Nominal, like a symbolic $1 bill.
Right. In intentional torts, like if someone walks on your lawn but doesn't hurt the grass, you can still sue them for trespassing and get $1.
Just to prove you were right.
Yeah. But in negligence, if a guy speeds at 100 miles an hour through a red light but miraculously doesn't hit anyone, you can't sue him. No harm, no foul.
Okay, what about pure economic loss?
This is a huge rule. You cannot sue for purely financial losses unless you also have physical injury or property damage.
Give me a simple example.
A truck driver negligently crashes into a bridge pillar. The bridge is closed for 3 months.
I own a coffee shop next to the bridge. All the traffic stops. I lose $50,000 in profit. Can I sue the truck driver?
No, your shop wasn't physically hit. You weren't hurt. You just lost money.
That feels unfair.
It does, but think about it. If you could sue, then every single business in the city would sue the driver. Every commuter who was late to work would sue. It would be infinite liability.
Ah, so requiring physical harm acts like a dam to stop a flood of lawsuits.
Exactly. Now, if you do have physical harm, what is your duty as a plaintiff?
Mitigation. Avoidable consequences.
Yes. You have to try to lessen your own damages. Let's use a gross example.
Okay, lay it on me.
I leave a rusty nail sticking out of a shelf in my store. It slashes your arm. But you just go home and wrap it in a dirty towel.
I don't go to the doctor because I'm cheap.
Right. It gets infected, turns purple, and eventually the doctors have to cut off your whole arm to save your life.
So I sue you for $5 million for losing my arm.
You won't get it. A reasonably prudent person would have gone to the clinic and got antibiotics for $50. You failed to mitigate.
So I get nothing.
Well, in an old strict state, you might get $50 for the clinic you should have gone to, but zero for the arm. In a modern comparative fault state, the jury will just say you were 80% to blame and reduce your money by 80%.
Okay, so what kind of damages can I actually get?
Medical bills, past and future, lost wages, and lost earning capacity. Like if you were studying to be a surgeon and now your hands don't work.
And pain and suffering.
Which is totally subjective, and juries can award millions for it, especially with the eggshell skull rule.
Right. If my rare bone disease causes me 10 times more pain, the defendant pays for all of it.
Exactly. Now, what if it's property damage, like a car?
The rule is usually the difference in market value.
Yes. If your car was worth $50,000 and after the crash it's worth $5,000, they owe you $45,000.
Unless fixing it is cheaper. If the repair is only $10,000, they just pay the $10,000.
Right. But there's a weird exception for household items, like clothes or an old sofa.
Because the market value of my dirty 3-year-old T-shirt is zero. No one wants to buy it.
Right, so courts use replacement value instead. They pay you what it costs to go buy a similar new shirt.
Now, what about insurance? The collateral source rule. The MBE loves this.
Oh, this is a big one. The traditional rule is really counterintuitive. Let's say your hospital bill is $100,000, but your health insurance pays the whole thing.
I owe the hospital nothing.
Right, but you still sue the driver who hit you. Under the traditional rule, you can demand the full $100,000 from the driver.
Wait, I get to keep the $100,000. That's double dipping.
It is a total windfall for the plaintiff. But the traditional law says the bad driver shouldn't get a lucky discount just because you were smart enough to buy insurance. The jury isn't even allowed to know about your insurance.
Wow. But the text says this is changing.
Yes, many modern states are passing laws to stop this, especially in medical malpractice cases. They don't like the double dipping anymore.
Okay, last type of damages.
Punitive damages.
These aren't about compensating the victim. These are about punishing the defendant so society never does it again.
Yeah.
So I can't get this for a simple mistake, like spilling coffee in my car.
No, you need clear and convincing evidence that the defendant was reckless or malicious, like driving blackout drunk through a school zone.
Okay. But is there a limit? Can a jury award $50 billion?
No. The Supreme Court stepped in with a case called State Farm versus Campbell. They said crazy high punitive damages violate the Constitution.
So what's the limit?
A single-digit ratio. If your actual damages are $100,000, the punitive damages can't be more than 9 times that. So $900,000.
Got it. Okay, that's our main map. Actual breach because of compensation, A, B, C.
Well, we aren't done.
Right. We need an edge cases box on the side of our map. The special rules.
These are scenarios where the normal rules just don't work. The biggest one is NIED, negligent infliction of emotional distress.
Normally, we need physical harm. If someone almost hits me with a car, misses me by an inch, and drives away, I can't sue for normal negligence.
Right, because you weren't physically hurt. But NIED is the exception for severe emotional trauma.
But the courts are terrified of this, right? They don't want everyone suing just because they are sad.
Exactly. So they made 3 very narrow, strict pathways. Pathway 1 is the zone of danger.
So the car misses me by an inch, smashes into a wall, and catches fire.
You were in the physical zone of danger. You genuinely feared for your life.
Can I just go to court and say, I have anxiety now?
Usually, no. The traditional rule requires objective physical symptoms. You need a doctor to say your terror caused a bleeding ulcer or a heart attack.
They need physical proof of the emotion. Okay, what's pathway 2?
Bystander recovery. Let's use the mnemonic C, P-O.
CPO, what does it mean?
C is closely related. P is present at the scene. O is personally observe the accident.
So I have to be closely related to the victim, I have to be there, and I have to watch it happen. And I still need the physical symptoms like an ulcer.
Yes. But let's look at the C. Closely related. Usually this strictly means a spouse or an immediate blood relative.
So if I live with my partner for 20 years, but we aren't legally married, and I watch them get hit by a truck.
Under the strict rule, you cannot sue for NIED.
That is so cold. My trauma is just as real.
It is cold. But the courts want a bright line rule. If they let unmarried partners sue, what about best friends? What about roommates? It would never end.
Okay, I get the administrative reason. What is the third pathway?
The special relationship rule. This one is different. You don't need to be in danger, and you usually don't need physical symptoms.
What does this apply?
When the relationship is entirely built on emotional vulnerability. The classic example is a mortician.
Oh. So a family hires a funeral home to care for their mother's body.
And the mortician negligently loses the body. The emotional devastation is totally foreseeable. The family can sue without needing an ulcer to prove it.
Or the doctor who falsely diagnoses someone with a terminal disease.
Right. Telling someone they have 3 weeks to live and then saying, oops, wrong chart. That's a massive emotional tort.
Okay, that's NIED. What about when someone actually dies? The MBE tests the difference between wrongful death and survival actions.
They sound similar, but they are totally different buckets of money. The trick is to ask, who is suing and whose suffering are they complaining about?
Let's start with wrongful death.
A wrongful death suit is filed by the surviving family, and it is for the family.
So if a mother is killed by a driver, the husband and kids sue.
Right. They sue for the loss of her future income, her companionship, her guidance in the home.
Do they get money for the pain the mother felt while dying?
No. That is the huge distinction. Wrongful death is only about the family's loss, not the victim's physical pain.
And because it's for the family, the text says the dead person's creditors can't touch this money.
Exactly. If she had $50,000 in credit card debt, the credit card company cannot take the wrongful death money. It belongs to the family.
Okay, so what is a survival action?
A survival action is brought by the dead person's estate. It's like the person's legal ghost rises up to sue for what happened before they died.
So if the mother survived in the hospital for 3 weeks before passing away,
her estate sues for those 3 weeks of medical bills and her 3 weeks of conscious pain and suffering.
and since that money goes into her estate,
The creditors can take that money. The credit card company gets paid before the heirs inherit the rest.
and we can't double dip, right? If the state has both laws, we just split the timeline at the moment of death.
Exactly. Estate gets the before, family gets the after.
Okay, what about family injuries when the victim doesn't die? Like a husband who is paralyzed.
The wife can sue for loss of consortium. She lost his help around the house. She lost the physical intimacy of marriage.
But the text says this is a derivative claim. What does that mean?
It means her lawsuit is attached to his. It derives its life from his claim.
Oh, so if he was 40% at fault for his own accident under comparative fault?
Then her loss of consortium money is also reduced by 40%, even though she did nothing wrong.
Because her claim is infected by his fault.
You got it. Okay, the very last edge cases. Wrongful life versus wrongful birth.
These are the heavy ones. Medical negligence during pregnancy, like failing to diagnose a severe genetic defect.
Yes. Let's look at wrongful life first. Who is the plaintiff?
The disabled child is the plaintiff, suing the doctor for allowing them to be born.
Right. The child is saying non-existence would be better than this painful life.
Do courts accept that?
Almost never. Most states completely ban wrongful life claims. Judges refuse to calculate the monetary difference between existence and non-existence.
So the child loses. But what about wrongful birth?
In wrongful birth, the parents are the plaintiffs. They argue the doctor took away their right to make an informed choice about family planning.
And courts like that better.
Yes, many states allow it. The parents can recover the medical costs of the labor, the physical pain of delivery, and the extra lifetime costs of raising a disabled child.
So for the MBE, just look at who is suing. Child sues, is wrongful life, probably fails. Parent sue, wrongful birth probably succeeds.
Exactly. That's the exact trap they set.
And with that, we have completed our entire mind map. It's a lot, but having that visual structure helps so much.
Let's do a fast review. A is actual breach. Preponderance of the evidence, the reasonably prudent person, and the falling piano of res ipsa with its E&D acronym.
Don't forget the Ybarra exception for unconscious patients, croup liability.
Yes. Then B is because of. Causation. We have the but for physics, the SAC SAC for the weird cases, and the math of loss of chance.
And proximate cause. The Paul's graph foreseeability limits, the eggshell skull rule.
Extent of damage never has to be foreseeable.
Right. And the intervening versus superseding causes, medical malpractice is always foreseeable.
And finally, C is compensation. Physical harm required. Mitigate your damages. The collateral source rule double dipping. And single-digit punitive damages.
Plus our edge cases box, NIE pathways, wrongful death ghosts, and wrongful birth choices.
If you can visualize this map, you won't just memorize definitions. You will actually understand how the law works.
You can just deduce the right answer on test day.
And we know doing this in simple English as a second language is exhausting. But you are doing the hard work.
You really are. And before we go, I want to leave you with a provocative thought, something to think about while you review.
Oh, I love these. Lay it on us.
Think about the creeping influence of comparative fault. We talked about how it's replacing all these old, harsh rules with simple percentages.
Right, it softened the res ipsa rules, and it changed the mitigation rules.
So here is the question. As juries get more comfortable just assigning everyone a percentage, will complex rules like superseding causes eventually disappear?
Oh, like instead of saying a criminal act broke the chain.
Yeah. Will courts just say, let's just make the criminal 60% liable, the careless teacher 30%, and call it a day?
Will the whole beautiful architecture of proximate cause just collapse into one big subjective math spreadsheet?
It's a real possibility. It's a fascinating evolution to watch.
That is a brilliant question to end on. A spreadsheet of percentages. Wow. Well, thank you all for joining us on this deep dive.
Good luck with your studies.
Yes, best of luck on the MBE. Keep reviewing that mind map, trust the work you're putting in, and go conquer that exam.